for work purposes. Third, we must, I'm afraid, look again at Christmas. And as Prime Minister, it's my duty to take difficult decisions, to do what is right to protect the people of this country.
Let's go, George.
Given the early evidence we have on this new variant of the virus, the potential risk it poses, it is with a very heavy heart, I must tell you, we cannot continue with Christmas as planned. In England, those living in Tier 4 areas should not mix with anyone outside their own household at Christmas, though support bubbles will remain in place for those at particular risk of loneliness or isolation. Across the rest of the country, the Christmas rules allowing up to 3 households to meet will now be limited to Christmas Day only, rather than the 5 days as previously set out. As before, there will be no relaxation on the 31st of January, so people must not break the rules. They must not break the rules at New Year. It's very, very important to emphasise. I know how much emotion people invest in this time of year, and how important it is, for instance, for grandparents to see their grandchildren, for families to be together. So I know how disappointing this will be. But we have said throughout this pandemic that we must and we will be guided by the science. When the science changes, we must change our response. And when the virus changes its method of attack, we must change our method of defence. And as your Prime Minister, I sincerely believe there is no alternative open to me. Without action, the evidence suggests that infections would soar, hospitals would become overwhelmed, and many thousands more would lose their lives. And I want to stress that we are not alone in this fight or in taking these types of decisions. Many of our European friends and neighbours are being forced to take similar action. We're working closely with the devolved administrations to protect people in every part of the UK. And of course there is now real hope that we will soon be rid of this virus. And that prospect is growing with every day that passes and every vaccine dose that is administered. As you know, the UK was the first country in the Western world to start using a clinically approved vaccine. And so please, if the NHS contacts you, then get your vaccine and join the 350,000 people across the UK who have already had their first dose. Yes, Christmas this year will be different. Very different, but we must be realistic. We're sacrificing the chance to see our loved ones this Christmas, so we have a better chance of protecting their lives, so that we can see them at future Christmases. And as sure as night follows day, we'll beat back this virus, we'll defeat it and reclaim our lives. But I'm going to hand over now to Patrick, who is going to go through some of the slides explaining this decision.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister. May I have the first slide, please? This slide is the Office for National Statistics slide showing infections have risen again. Decrease in the numbers during November, and it is now on the increase again. So the lockdown brought the numbers down, and now we're seeing them rising again. Next slide, please. This shows the levels on the 29th of November up to the 13th of December. So on the left-hand side is the average cases in the last 2 weeks in November the 29th, and on the right hand side is in mid-December. The darker the colour, the higher the number of cases. And what you can see is, first of all, that there are some areas that have got very dark, and here it's South Wales and in the south east of England
You need to
and that
sit
the
on there with
overall
the phone, you're not going around the
increased
house.
by more than 50%. So a
Need a wee,
substantial
leave the
increase
phone there and then go for a wee.
over the period of December. If I just concentrate now on the southeast, east and London, we'll see a picture which I think begins to link into the new virus variant. Next slide, please. So this is hospital admissions per day in London, the east of England and the southeast from NHS data from September through to now. You can see a gradual increase in the number of hospital admissions per day, and you can see a very sharp increase during December.
People on the right.
This virus has taken off, it's moving fast, and it's leading inevitably to a sharp increase in hospital admissions.
MPs.
Next slide, please. If we now look just at the areas that are moving into tier 4, as the Prime Minister just said, which is areas in London, the South East and the East, and look at the number of cases, the case rate against time, what you can see is the number of cases increases or the case rate increases dramatically. If you look at the dotted line, that's for England as a whole. You can see the case rate increasing in November, decreasing during lockdown, increasing again. But if you look at the solid blue line, which is London and the South East and the East in tier 4, you can see a rapid increase, a very sharp increase in rates over the period of December. So we have a particularly fast-moving problem with increased numbers in the area going into tier 4, but a generalised increase across the country. Next slide, please. I'd like to just spend a moment talking about the new variant. So the new variant, and viruses mutate all the time, but the new variant contains
What the fuck is that called?
23 different changes. Many of them associated with changes in the protein the virus makes. This is an unusually large number of variants. It's also got variants in areas of the virus that are known to be associated with how the virus binds to cells and enters cells. So there are some changes which cause concern in terms of how the virus looks. But on top of that, there are 3 questions that need to be asked. Does the new variant transmit more readily, i.e. does it make an increased chance of spread and growth? The second is, does it alter the course of the disease? Does it make people sicker? And the third is, does it alter the way that the immune system, the way the body responds to it if it's been previously infected or following the vaccine? I want to deal with the first question. There are 3 different sources of evidence, from genetic studies to frequency studies to laboratory studies, all of which come together to suggest this virus has a significant, substantial increase in transmissibility. And this is also highlighted in this graph, which shows the proportion of all the cases that were due to the new variant. So the new variant was first thought to have occurred sometime in mid-September in London or Kent, and by the middle of November, about 28% or so of the cases in London and the South East, and slightly lower in the east of England, were due to the new variant. So it had grown rapidly. By the week commencing the 9th of December, these figures were much higher. So in London, over 60% of all the cases were the new variant. So what this tells us is that this new variant not only moves fast, it is increased in terms of its ability to transmit, but it is becoming the dominant variant. It is beating all the others in terms of transmission. So this virus transmits and spreads fast. Does it alter the disease course? The answer seems to be no, as far as we can tell at the moment. There's no evidence it causes a more severe disease, causes more hospitalization, causes more trouble than the other virus. So it basically looks similar. Does it alter the immune response, or is the immune response less able to recognize it? There are theoretical reasons to suspect that some of the changes might alter some of the immune response, but there's nothing that's been seen to suggest that's the case. And our working assumption at the moment from all the scientists is that the vaccine response should be adequate for this virus. That obviously needs to be looked at going forward, and we need to keep vigilant about this. But the big change, therefore, is not disease progress, not the immunity, but transmission. This virus spreads more easily, and therefore more measures are needed to keep it under control. We absolutely need to stick to the basics of making sure that we reduce our contact, reduce the ability for this virus to spread, and that's the reason tougher measures are required to keep this variant under control.
Thanks very, very much, Patrick. Chris, anything you want to add to any of that? Well, thank you very much. Then let's go to questions from the public and then the media. First, Laura from Work.
Why are shielders still expected to work in Tier 3? As somebody who's already lost 2 loved ones to COVID, this terrifies me. Thank you.
Well, Laura, your question why shielders are still expected to work in Tier 3. Those who are shielding, those who are vulnerable, should of course take every step to protect themselves. And Laura, I hope very much that you're not asking after work if you're shielding. Chris, anything to add to that?
Well, I think the first thing to say is I'm really sorry to hear about your 2 relatives who died from this virus. I mean, it is a very dangerous virus for many people. The shielding patterns are actually being re-looked at, but the view about shielding is that in the first wave, shielding did many things that were useful, but also did many things that were actually actively harmful, and we therefore changed the model of shielding since the first wave, and that includes people being able to get out more in many situations, and also areas around work. But this is something which people are keeping on looking at to try and get the optimal balance between isolating people too much and isolating enough from the virus.
Thanks very much. Let's go to Mike from Cheshire. Mike from Cheshire asks, in the daily update figures, people testing positive, number of deaths and so forth, could you also provide the number of people who've had the vaccine? Well, Mike, thanks for that. And yes, as you've heard from me just now, the figure is